Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the capital for the official opening this morning of the 51st New Zealand Parliament. There's the scene starting to look quite official on the forecourt of Parliament itself. It is a bright morning in the capital. There was a bit of an inclement southerly that blew through overnight, but that has died down, not completely died down, as you can see by the fluttering of the flags. Various dignitaries arriving, foreign ambassadors, all sorts of people who are officially invited, turning up in polished limousines and, of course, dressed very sartorially. And you'll see some interesting fashion here this morning, actually, but very formal fashion, because this is an august occasion and an important one, not just ceremonial for various crucial reasons, mostly to do with history and the trust we have in this process, which will enable us to be governed in a stable way for the next 3 years. Within 6 weeks of an election and the writs being signed, this is when we do this. We've got elected MPs at the moment. They were sworn in yesterday, and of course their duties start this morning. Parliament actually sits. It's a blend, they tell us this year, of Westminster and tikanga. You can see some of the tikanga with the official Māori welcome party, and another one inside as the Governor-General arrives a bit later on. There'll be the call of the kakaranga and the response from the Governor-General's own party. He will walk through the Great Hall of Parliament, and a kapa haka party will be inside the Great Hall. There'll be haka, there'll be waiata as well. There is the red carpet that everybody walks up. The first official guest will actually be the acting Mayor of Wellington, Justin Lester. Passers by, not so much on their way to work, but maybe parliamentary staff up there, of course, but also there are bystanders. There are people who come down because this is an event that only happens once every 3 years. People on the balcony of the Beehive.
Arongo. Wai tahia. E waru. Tua. Maka whiti rua. E waru. Tua. Pakata.
Some of the important members of the armed forces arriving for the morning, and of course they are well represented here, as are the diplomatic corps, both in attendance: the Chief of the Army, Chief of the Navy, and the Chief of the Air Force. They will all be here. And there have been great occasions in this place. When New Zealand joined with Britain in the war with Germany 100 years ago, the announcement, that was on the 5th of August 1914 at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the steps of the Parliamentary Library, which is to the right of Parliament as you look at it, if you're not a Wellingtonian. Governor Lord Liverpool announced that we were at war in front of 15,000 people, and thousands marched that evening in patriotic fervour through the streets of Wellington. And as the war was about to end, the war to end all wars supposedly, Parliament moved into the brand new Parliament House in October 1918. And that is why the House of Representatives chamber was dedicated as a memorial to that war. And this was not only symbolic of the huge commitment and sacrifice, as most of us know, by New Zealanders, but it also reflected the wishes and the very heartfelt experiences of the assembled MPs themselves. Some of them had been to war, some of their sons had been to war. We lost both sons of MPs and MPs. And as Sir James Allen said at the time, I have had my own loss, you have had yours, most of us have had losses, and we bear them knowing that our sons have died noble deaths in the cause of liberty and freedom. So the wind seems to be dying down a bit. There was concern about the weather for the 51st state opening of Parliament, but as you can see, it's decided to be kind. So just a bit of the itinerary for you this morning. Mayor of Wellington arrives, all the Defence Force staff, as we said, Wellingtonians themselves, as you can see, and young Wellingtonians, the future of New Zealand. And that's the job of the 51st Parliament, to make New Zealand, keep New Zealand a safe place and make it a better place in terms of legislation for all the young New Zealanders to come. And the Governor-General and Lady Janine Mataparai arrive in about half an hour's time, a bit under, accompanied by members of their household. They arrive at Parliament House, and then the most formal part of the ceremony will begin. They will walk up those steps, they will hear the call of the kaikaranga, and they will enter the great hall of Parliament, into the council chamber, and the MPs who will already be in the debating chamber will be summoned with the knock on the door by Black Rod, and the MPs will file out into the council chamber to hear the speech from the throne of the Governor-General. There are a number of official guests and dignitaries, and they get to sit upstairs, or some of them sit on the ground floor actually, of the council chamber to hear the Governor-General's speech, and they also fill the upstairs gallery. And there are various functions after the official ceremonies this morning, which some of them will be attending, and some of them, like the bystanders, will simply go home, having seen a sight we tend to see only, hopefully, once every 3 years, unless the circumstances are reasonably unusual or extraordinary. And the Māori Welcome Party will be keeping warm with that degree of exercise. It's not a cold morning in Wellington, but it would be called refreshing, probably. Temperature, I imagine, is in the low teens, but warming up all the time. So as the Governor-General arrives a bit later on, if you're staying with our coverage, you'll hear the Royal New Zealand Air Force trumpeters. There'll be a fanfare. Here will be met, the Governor-General and Lady Janine, by the gentleman usher of the Black Rod. There'll be a royal salute. There'll be an inspection of the Tri-Service Guards of Honour, representing all three branches of the New Zealand Armed Forces, and then their excellencies will move into Parliament itself for the most important part of the proceedings today. And a real mixing and a mingling in there. Mana whenua, Pākehā, foreign dignitaries. They've got about half an hour still to wait. The judges of the Supreme Court arriving at Parliament, and the reason for the presence of the judges is that they are the King's or Queen's representatives, and by tradition the reigning monarch can't enter a parliamentary chamber, and that signifies Parliament's independence. And the usual phrase is that the Governor-General does not think fit to be here. Dame Sian Elias and the other judges, splendid in their regalia. And of course, the Governor-General not entering the actual chamber of Parliament is only pro forma these days, but not in the past, and as recently as the 17th century, when the English kings were at loggerheads with their subjects. And they have already instructed the Clerk of the House and given him the authority to swear in the elected representatives of the people of New Zealand. They are Her Majesty's commissioners. We'll see quite a few wigs this morning, and the wigs of the judges, like the Speaker's wig, have their origins in past times too, to do with impartiality and anonymity and the discouragement of individuality and the inhabiting of a role, and of course it adds lustre and bearing to the office. That is the Council Chamber of Parliament. At the other end of the Grand Hall, which the Governor-General, which everybody in fact who's arriving today will walk through. And the Chief Justices and judges of the Supreme Appeal and High Courts and Sheriff of the High Court have come from the High Court across Molesworth Street, up past the Richard Seddon statue, as you saw up the main steps of Parliament where they were met by the Sergeant at Arms. And they have appointed seats in the Council Chamber. And it's 1 minute to 10, and in theory all the guests should be seated by 10 o'clock. The trumpeters of the Fanfare Party will be taking up position on the balcony overlooking the main steps of Parliament House. You can see the crowds swelling, not only on the balcony of the Beehive there, but just down from the actual forecourt of Parliament itself. Some people taking time off work, but most of them have probably made an appointment, a personal appointment, to be here today for all sorts of reasons, to see the pomp and the ceremony, but also to witness a triennial occasion. Those lemon squeezer hats just disappearing out of view, but you'll see them again in a minute. They are part of the World War I commemorative strand in this 51st state opening of Parliament. The hats worn in the First World War and the poppies in evidence there on the tunics of the band of the Royal New Zealand Air Force, also remembering the service of 100 years ago. So we've got the Royal New Zealand Navy, the New Zealand Army, and the Royal New Zealand Air Force, and the band of the Royal New Zealand Air Force. And we will also have the Royal Guards of Honour parading the Queen's colours of the Royal New Zealand Navy and the Royal New Zealand Air Force.
In open order! Inwards! Press!
The Guard Commander today, Major Jason Tinsley, and the Director of Music, Flight Lieutenant Simon Brew.
Guard of Honor! Eyes! Front! March on the colours! Sir! Guard of Honor! General
But they won't be standing at ease forever. In about 9 minutes, the Governor-General will be on his way. The clerk and the deputy clerk of the House will take their places. And then there'll be the message from the Governor. Well, they will have received the message from the Governor-General that he's coming. And the members of the House of Parliament itself will await the formal summons, and then he will come. Sir Jerry Mataparai and Lady Janine across the forecourt, through the Grand Hall into the Legislative Council chamber, and judges of the High Court await him, members of the Diplomatic Corps. And once he is sitting on the throne, he will summon the House of Representatives to the Council chamber. It's not a long walk for them, but it's an important one. And important traditionally too for all the processions and all the pomp and circumstance, to either be seen or wend their way through areas as public and as visible as possible, so that the business of state not only be done, but be seen to be done. So everything is in readiness for the arrival of the vice-regal couple. And they'll be met by Black Rod. It's aspects of this ceremony that, of course, we have inherited from Great Britain date back to the 14th century, and the office of, we'll talk more about Black Rod when we see him, but the office of Black Rod certainly does, the gentleman usher of the Black Rod, because with that rod he'll bang on the door of the House to summon the members. When the Governor-General, in our case, wants MPs here to listen to the speech from the throne, and that speech outlines what the government's proposals are for the next 3 years. And the reason the Governor-General doesn't go into the chamber dates back to 1642, I think, when King Charles busted his way into the House of Commons with a bunch of soldiers in a bid to arrest some MPs. A bid that was resisted and unsuccessful. So the Wellington Southerly is not out in force, which is good because it was last night and it would have been very inclement. But as you can see from the way people are dressed this morning, they're a bit wrapped up, but no one's too heavily attired. Some reasonably heavy attire inside the council chamber, but the wigs would have helped keep the justices warm as they walked across from the High Court. And those front rows, of course, of the council chamber will be filled up by the members of Parliament, the 121 of them. And outside, the members of the armed forces, standing at ease, but not standing easy, because they will resume their readiness in about 5 to 10 minutes' time. In about 5 minutes from now, the Governor-General and his party will set off on their short journey here to the Houses of Parliament.
Wai wai takahia. Arongo. Tuko. Apa
So there's a mana whenua presence at the front of the House and in the Grand Hall, which the official